Thanks everyone for joining us today. At Rakuten Six Sense, we work closely with organizations that are trying to make sense of an increasingly complex data environments. And there's one consistent challenge we hear from our customers. We have lots of tools, but we still don't trust our data. This session is not just about tooling, it's about solving problems and a data and data quality mindset. It's about moving beyond reactive firefighting and building systems and strategies that can sense issues before they escalate. That's where the distinction between data quality and data observability becomes critical. Data quality looks at the what, but data observability dives into the why and the where and root causing of issues. And in a world driven by AI, real time decisions, and ever changing pipelines, that shift is no longer optional. In the next few minutes, GK will walk you through how organizations can operationalize this shift, what to monitor and what to look for, and finally, how to scale it. Over to you, GK.
All right, so even before we dive into what happens out there in the industry, I'll tell you about a little story that happened to myself. I landed at this airport and had to go to an important business meeting, and I tried to book a cab. And this app suddenly said, I have an outstanding payment that I had to make, but I was pretty sure that I had made this payment. And since it was a new city, I didn't want to risk taking any local cabs and I wanted to go through this app. So I called them up and asked them what's going on. And they said there was an outstanding payment, but I argued with them that it was already done. So they routed me to the bank. So I call up my bank and they pass on the transaction ID. So take the transaction ID back to the cab company and request them to release my payment. And now they took 2 to 5 minutes to investigate. And finally, they gave me a call and said they confirmed that the payment has been received and they asked me to book the cab again, and it went through. And curious me, I just tried to ask them what actually happened there. And they said there was some refresh issue across different systems that caused some confusion. Now, while this happened to me, there could have been hundreds of customers who could have faced this in that particular location or different locations where they serve. Now, not just the overhead of solving this issue, but the cab company and the bank company together are picking up some tab on serving the customer in terms of paying for the agents that are solving this issue. So the multiple issues at play here. One is the customer being put through inconvenience and the cost incurred by the company for each of these customer care calls that are happening, and the overall delay for the customer, and it dents the experience and the delight that the cab company would otherwise want to deliver. Now, what actually happened here could be multiple reasons, but one of the possible reasons could be that data is hopping across different systems from the bank to the cab company's system, and internally to the cab company, there could be multiple systems in play. So one of the pipelines could have had issues, would have been broken or clogged, or a scheduler might not have run, and hence there was a refresh with the data that was transacted, and hence the customer was put through convenience. All right, and not just with cab-related apps. This could happen with travel-related apps and multiple other B2C solutions out there, and customers have always faced this. And I'm sure you would be able to relate to one of them. Now let's take a B2B or an enterprise story. Now, CEOs or CXOs of different conglomerates such as Rakuten and other big companies out there on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis are trying to look up reports or review the reports to take critical business decisions. And these decisions could make or break the business across different companies and also different critical KPIs that are in play that may be impacting the top line revenue. Now, let's take, for instance, a company which has multiple businesses around the world, versatile at that. They could be having the typical e-commerce, they could be having the fintech business, streaming, and so on. And each one of these businesses are onboarding users on a daily basis. And that's what they strive for, right? They want to onboard as many new users as possible and retain those users by continuously offering them innovative solutions and keeping them sticky to the platform. Now, in order to do this, multiple business decisions has to be taken. One, in terms of how does the business retain the users? How does the business leverage each of these users by cross-using them across different businesses, across locations? And for these, critical reports come into play in terms of what are the daily registrations? What are the weekly registrations? Is there a drop? Is there a rise? And if so, across which business vertical, across which business location, and so on. Now, a CEO has to look at these reports, and let's say each one of these companies across different locations are sending their reports, and there are 2 or 3 reports which come in, and turns out each one of these reports is giving the CEO a different number. Now, this cripples them from taking a decisive call in terms of how to move forwards. Maybe, let's say they want to, strategize cashback for the customers who need to be retained or who can be lured to register to the business. Now, if each one of these reports give a different number, decisions cannot be taken. Now, they might either take a wrong call or resort to some manual mode of rolling up the statistics. Again, it is time consuming, and by the time you take the decision, the time could have been passed. So that's where one needs to pay attention to how the data is hopping across different systems, because every of the locations could be using a versatile data source from coming in from different companies, but one has to standardize, normalize, and ensure that the quality is intact. So right there at the ingestion layer or at the landing layer, and all the way till the way the data gets transformed across different ETLs, and the different business related transformations that could happen at the storage layer and the data lake layer, and finally it gets consumed for the analytics or the data sciences play. All of these are critical areas where one needs to proactively pay attention to how data is at play, and one needs to observe. So here is another business case where data becomes important again. So these are the cases where companies are getting complex and evolving rapidly at that, either through mergers and acquisitions, or they're expanding across different genres of businesses, huge conglomerates again. Now, when this happens, it's not just within a region. They could be dealing with different regions, different kind of users at different points in time. And as a consequence of these mergers and acquisitions, they end up having a lot of systems in play. Third-party systems, it could be different ERPs, different customer support systems, different marketing solutions, communication management systems, different human resource systems, and what have you. Now, when all of these happens, there's a difference in the different data stacks that these companies deal with, and hence it becomes overwhelming to pay attention to how the data is hopping across different systems, and it might cripple business decisions. So just to take an example, this is how hazy it can get. So you see different aspects in play here: business goals, data utilization, data quality, which is very critical for a chief data officer, or different engineering teams which are trying to ensure that the data platform is in play and is in the right state so that the utilization can happen, or billions of transactions across the world are being monitored. Or it could be the data owners and users trying to see how can they offer the best quality with the data so it can be leveraged by the data scientist teams. Different business teams again are looking at it, and the other teams such as legal, privacy, compliance, and governance, they're looking at how the data is being transacted across different locations and businesses. So it has to be made simpler for these personas and these use cases and situations. Otherwise, wrong decisions get made again. AI-based transformation is another critical use case, and this is something that everyone is aware and can relate to. AI-based transformation can happen across different touch points of the user's journey in a business. Could be about offering a universal concierge-like system where the customers can come and interact with an e-commerce platform just like the way they do with ChatGPT. I'm having my son's birthday coming up, and I would just tell the e-commerce chatbot or the conversation mode of interaction solution that he loves Star Wars, he loves planets, he's into astronomy. So I want to gift him something interesting for his upcoming birthday, and then maybe I could give access to my gallery where it can skim through his pictures, some of the toys that he has, and finally look up the e-commerce platform to see what products it can recommend me, so I can package it together for his birthday and get it delivered. Now, if all of these have to happen, the semantic search is at play, where it has to clearly understand what I'm expressing in terms of my need, and hence the NLP becomes important. So a lot of sciences come into play there again. And of course, there's vector DB, and a lot of RAG and different versions of RAG come into play, and all of them have to be annotated, and the prompt has to be processed continuously. Now, if you see all of these coming into play, data is at the center of it, right? So there is competitive data that the company can be looking at. There could be third-party data the company could be purchasing, or there could be the brand-related data that the company is working with a specific brand of that particular category. So multiple pipelines in play, multiple business rules in play again. But what has to be ensured is the right kind of data with the right freshness and the right volume is required for that semantic search to contextually be aware of what is going on in that period of time and be able to recommend what works the best for my son's birthday. There could be several other AI-based transformations as well. Companies are building LLMs of their own, or they could be looking at various image-based transactions or voice-based transactions. A lot of these come into play in terms of structured and unstructured data, and dealing with them can become a nightmare, and data quality becomes that more imperative. So this is where the versatility of the data needs to be paid attention to. And also many times companies believe, when things go wrong, companies believe that there is an AI drift or a model drift, due to which they're not getting the kind of accurate recommendations the user has to see. But turns out it could be a data drift as well. And this can be viewed across different metrics, which I'll take you through in a bit. And do they have the correct cardinality of the data that they require? It doesn't have to be too much or too small, but do they have the right cardinality of the data for them to complete their analysis? Or do they have the continuous flow of information? And all of this information is that in the boundaries of security and governance that the companies would have defined? And of course, are all these available in a timely manner? So while a lot of these are touch points in the user's journey, there could be other use cases such as migrations. Companies go through different forms of migrations as they evolve, and also as a part of the mergers and acquisitions that I just spoke about. And the migrations can happen across different realms. One could be the simple database migration, or could be migrating the application, or the overall infra migration, or could be consolidating different systems to optimize the infra and the overall costs. So these can be considered as the sources. And as a part of these migration activities, companies also take this as an opportunity to make certain corrections with the kind of data that they're dealing with, in terms of applying latest business rules and validations. For instance, there's a legacy system that has been registering users from a decade. So obviously the kind of, let's say, the password related rules could be very different as compared to the latest realm of things, because you need stronger passwords, or you could have brought in the support for let's say bioauthentication. So the business rules and validations of the newer era have to be applied, or it could be about deduplicating, merging of information, and so on. So all of this can be taken as an opportunity to be corrected, and finally they find their way into the destination source. Now, if data is not observed in terms of various parameters that is important to the business and the different teams, then the migration can not be complete, or it can be unsuccessful, or it can take a lot of time. Usually what happens is migration is a tricky proposition. What usually we think of as something that can happen weeks or months can indeed be can be stretched to years because of multiple issues and reasons. And that's where being being proactive in terms of understanding how the data is playing in near real time becomes that much critical, because if you don't have these checks and balances for real time observability, things can derail. So all of these put together, right? These different verticals that we saw in terms of where all data becomes important for enterprises. One has to be proactive, otherwise risks can come up, and these risks can span across monetary aspects. Standard analysts or popular analysts put a number to this in terms of wrong decisions taken based on incorrect business reports can lead to on an average of 10 to 13 million US dollars annual loss, and of course impact the brand reputation as well. And in case of rapidly evolving companies, the data quality issues can lead up to 25% loss in annual revenue. And incorrect data for all of those AI based transformation initiatives that companies are taking, more than 40% of the companies actually suffer from failures of projects because they're not paying attention to the data. Automation of projects or platforms, if you're not paying attention to the data, again 60 to 80% of the projects fail. And finally, more than 50% of the migrations exceed the budgets that they started with, because it becomes a moving target then. And that's where data observability comes in at bang right in the middle of all of these. Now, these can happen across different companies, or if it's a huge conglomerate, all of this can happen within the same company. And there is a high chance and probability that it can happen on a single day. And when that happens, the CXOs of these MNCs can have a pretty rough day, and it can sink them down, not only in terms of the brand reputation, but also the stock prices can plummet, and overall the competitive edge could be lost. And it's a humongous effort for all the innovative ideas that the company would have had, a lot of experiments that they would have done, and incorrect data can really let them down. So that's where agnostic of a business, agnostic of a domain, data quality is at the core of all this. Now let's look at what are the different categories in terms of the data quality where things can go wrong. Now these could span across incomplete data. Now this is where, for instance, you're registering a user as a company, and if you don't have the correct business rules either on the UI or through the API layers, you have incomplete data. Let's say the company does not have my email address, they'll have to check with me again to to send them the location for them to process it through their supply chain or the logistic partners. Happened to me as latest as last week. Or it could be inaccurate data. Business rules across different systems at times change. So either a portion of my name could get truncated, or if the PIN code is incorrectly passed, it could mean a different city altogether. Some of us have faced this, right? When you order something on an e-commerce platform, sometimes the courier goes for around the country trip, and you wonder what's happening there. That's because one of the PIN codes would have been incorrectly passed to a different city, and it's making it strip. Or it could be a lot of duplicate data as well that you need to deal with, or inconsistent data across different systems. Let's say you have your payment related system, you have your logistic related system, and the marketing related system. Data can go inconsistent if the business rules are not handled properly. Or it could be questionable data as well. These days, personal information is that much more critical to be handled, especially in the fields of fintech, life sciences, and healthcare. While personal information is collected, these could span across a person's name, the location, their personal contact details, and so on. Now, these have to be encrypted. If the encryption is lost in transit, or the data makes its way into certain tables or certain systems that are not intended to, they could be easily coming under the radar for, let's say, governance rules like GDPR or CCP and so on. So that's where a lot of validations, normalization, and all of those business rules, standardization checks and balances have to be taken as actions. And these can be overwhelming if they're not dealt with properly, or if you have multiple systems, or if you have a mix of automation and manual efforts going on across different locations, different teams handling it. And that's where Rakuten 6 Sense Data Observability can help you automate a lot of these things so you can focus really on what matters, and thus reducing considerable amount of chaos that you have to deal with. Now, Rakuten's Data Observability offers three key pillars. First one is the AI-powered monitors, and what was previously looked at as a solution for the typical IT teams or the backend teams or the infra teams is now looked at a proactive solution for folks who are managing or responsible for the top line metrics of a company. Could be a CDO, could be a CEO, or could be the product teams, could be the architecture teams, or proactively innovating different solutions. Maybe they're looking at bumping up the impact of a certain campaign that is upcoming and so on. So they can use these platforms as well. And that's where we offer a complete low code, no code solution. And these are across different pillars of data observability, which we'll touch upon a bit. And within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, you should be able to set up the system on your own and start the observability. And what we also offer is the extensive inter-system lineage, which is completely automated. You don't have to make any manual efforts in terms of understanding where the data is hopping across different sources and different destinations. And this is seamless and helps in significantly reducing the mean time to detection from hours to few minutes. And overall health of the data itself is presented in a very intuitive 360-degree health dashboard. And one of the key selling propositions we have is to be able to quantify the state of the data in terms of the health scores. And this is done in two dimensions. One is, how long has the anomaly been open because someone has not acted upon it, and also the dimension of the criticality of the anomaly itself and certain other calculations that go into it. Also factoring in how frequently an asset or a column is getting used and how many unique users are using it and so on. So a lot of these calculations are put together to quantify the overall health of the system and can provide a roll-up of the state of the data across different sources of data that you have. And hence, it lets you be more productive on, again, things that matter in terms of innovation and growing your business, while with the minimum time that you need to spend on taking care of the data. So that's where we not only help businesses and users observe and manage their data, but also nurture the data in terms of taking it in a direction that it can be as resourceful as and impactful to the businesses. So the 5 key pillars that we focus on is the data quality, and these could span across standard syntactic checks such as, let's say, a primary column cannot be null, all the way till complex statements that you can write using SQL to take care of the business rules in terms of comparing, in terms of having a specific range, and also handling multiple seasonalities. Data freshness, this is a measure of how fresh is my data based on the business requirements. And the schema is where you need to ensure that it's intact. Now, in the case of data analytics, the schema becomes very critical because there are certain important columns that could be feeding into critical metrics of the report. If some of them change or some of them get nuked off, then the reports can go haywire. Hence, keeping a tab on the schema becomes that more critical. And of course, it's not just how fresh my data is. Do I have the right amount of volume as well for my sciences to predict accurately, or for my analytics, sciences behind the analytics as well, to make those predictions accurately. And a bit of the data catalog or the incident management abilities come into play through the lineage, where one is able to see where exactly the issue has occurred and be able to trace back to the source of the issue. Let's say there's a report that suddenly goes blank. Now you should be able to pinpoint and put your finger on the exact data source where the issue went wrong. Could be in one of the transformations that is broken, or the one of the pipelines that is ingesting has stopped feeding in information. So that becomes very handy as well. All right. So while that is the overall problem space and what are the different solutions that Rakuten 6 Sense Data Observability observes, now let's look at how we can relate all of these to different use cases in different business verticals. And one of the notions that we strongly believe is a solution has to be highly contextual when it comes to different business verticals, and verticalization of the different features that we offer is something that we pay a lot of attention to. Now, this is a use case of online and offline retail. Now, this is where companies offer loyalty programs, and supply chain becomes very critical as well. Now, if you look at the how the overall inventory is managed itself, the data that is flowing in from let's say the checkout system or the ordering system all the way till the warehousing system has to be really intact, because the user's location is important, and the kind of delivery dates that has been promised by the ordering team has to be honored. Otherwise, delay can mean user churn. Many times we've seen a specific level of membership is users are subscribed to a specific membership, and faster deliveries are promised. Now, if the user is incorrectly flagged off and the delivery doesn't happen faster, then could mean a churn. So that's where incorrect and inadequate data might lead to wrong decisions, and also lead to incorrect campaign analysis as well. Security, privacy, regulatory, these become important, especially in e-commerce, because your customer can come in from any location. Let's say the company is based off of India, and a European customer makes a purchase. Now, just because it's the purchase is made in India, does not mean that the European laws cannot kick in. Since it's a European customer, GDPR laws comes into play. And let's say the user has deregistered from the system after making the purchase, and you're not supposed to hold their data after a certain amount of time, let's say after 3 months or 4 months, because you don't need that data because they've deregistered. Now, care has to be taken to ensure that that data is gotten rid of. And this is across various systems. Could be your analytics systems, could be your marketing systems, could be the profiling systems, and so on. And if somehow data is still residing and the user gets to know that it's still there in the system, they could sue you based on the GDPR laws. So this becomes super critical. Loyalty and discount management is another key vertical, and hence being able to provide compelling real-time data for the analytics becomes crucial. Telecom is another highly competitive vertical, and this is where we deal with both network-related data and non-network-related data. Now, network-related data is crucial because, let's say, your bills are getting generated, and it's important for the billing system to know exactly at that point in time how much data you've used and how many calls you've made and so on. And if it's incorrect, you could either get overbilled or underbilled. Either ways, the company is going to suffer a repute, because the customer does not want to overpay. And if the customer underpays, then the bill has to be adjusted the next time, and it could put the customer at unease, and this could lead to a churn. And in case of customer support also, the agents need to have the latest and greatest information, failing which they won't be able to resolve the customer's issues. And hence it becomes important. And of course, real-time analytics need less to say, and security, privacy, compliance is going to be a common factor across different business verticals. Customer segmentation is a critical activity that all the telecom players do, because they're looking at what is the kind of subscription plan that works with different customer segments, business users, or it could be the non-business users as well, or what kind of OTTs that they would want to package with the subscriptions. Now, if all of this is done incorrectly, the campaigns could fail and people may not end up subscribing. Now, credit card business is also a competitive business. And so this is an area where a lot of merchant related transactions are happening. And if the settlements are not happening on time due to broken pipelines, then it can lead to massive losses as well. And companies are constantly changing the business rules, either in terms of the cashback that they're giving or in terms of the coupons that are being issued for a specific credit card, or it could be the strategic types that they're making with, let's say, a food delivery app, or it could be an e-commerce related app. These have to be managed very carefully. Otherwise, it's not just the merchants who can be unhappy, but eventually the customers as well. And a lot of migration activities happen, and if the companies are going to tackle this reactively, then it can cost them big. Now, migration can happen due to modernization efforts, or it could be due to mergers of different banks, multiple different reasons. And of course, data analytics in terms of how do we innovate our credit card in terms of targeting a new, let's say, Gen Z customer segment, what entices them, what color of the card do we use, right? There are different credit card companies coming up with metal cards, transparent see-through cards. So a lot of these innovations happen, and it's critical to know what are the users' preferences that work in that point in time, and hence analytics is very crucial. And running these campaigns with strategic partners also becomes important. Typical issues and use cases in the cashback systems as well, very similar to the credit cards. Life sciences, they not only deal with critical data standardization issues, but they deal with plethora of information, right from the way they go about their clinical trials across different locations. So literally multiple regional laws come into play. And hence, if you're not standardizing your data and keeping a check on them, you could end up having multiple rules across multiple tables, maybe managing different tables for each region. And that can not only increase the effort but also increase the spending in terms of the quality, additional quality checks that have to be made. So standardization becomes important, and adhering to that standardization also becomes critical. And tons of digitalization effort also comes into play, because maybe they're running some clinical trials in a remote area. They don't have access to digital systems, and hence the paperwork has to be converted to the digital information as well. So that's another area where quality becomes important. And of course, life sciences companies go through multiple acquisitions and also migration of data, modernization from legacy systems, and knocking off all those duplication and redundancy becomes critical. And of course, security, privacy, and regulatory, because they're submitting the dossiers in different regions, and each of these regions would have different regulations coming into play, and hence being cognizant of those business rules and the checks, and also adhering to them becomes all that more critical. And of course, data analytics in terms of dealing with multiple user information. So all of this said, what sets Rakuten's data observability apart? One of the favorite features for most of our prospects and customers is the end-to-end inter-system lineage. And I can't tell you enough the delight in their faces every time we talk about this feature, and when they see this happen, because it makes their life that much more easier, not just in terms of exploring the data, but also in terms of tackling the anomalies. And a lot of AI-powered monitors is what we offer in terms of the models being able to understand the patterns of how the tables are getting populated and nudge the user towards anomalies that would occur. We offer flexible on-cloud, on-premise, and hybrid mode of deployments. And like I said a while ago, it is simple, swift, and seamless in terms of integration. Anyone can set this up in a matter of few minutes. Now, let's see what popular analysts such as Gartner is saying when it comes to a modern observability or modern data observability. Typically, these were looked at as being driven by metrics, traces, and logs. But what is being said in the latest realm of things is the business context. Without the business context, these solutions will not be able to make the kind of impact that you would typically want. And that's where Rakuten Data Observability brings in the verticalized notion across its features. Now, data observability is, in one scheme of things, looked at as something that can accelerate data analytics and other decision making, but it can also be a catalyst in your AI transformational journeys. Now, this is the AI maturity view that Gartner is given, right from process optimization all the way till automation. But data observability can play a key role in each and every of these steps for all through from detecting to remediation, and that's where key AI issues usually can be attributed directly to data, such as data bias, security leaks, data drifts, lack of diversity in the data, and of course, privacy, quality, and compliance. Here is another view of the key USPs of Sixth Sense's data observability. We are going deeper when it comes to data governance and compliance niche. Every industry that we're working with, the platformization and the features that we're offering, on one side, it is business agnostic. At the same time, there are contextual areas where we focus on to ensure that all the initiatives that the companies are taking can be nailed. Unique data assets, asset scoring. So this is where a mix of data health score and importance score come in quantifying the state of the data, and decisive movements can be made basis this. Customer success engagement is something that is very important to us. We are engaged through and through, not just before making the deal, and even after the deal, we continuously engage with our customers and co-building the features, understanding how the usage is. So not just at the time of making the sale, but also post the sale, we co-partner with our customers in terms of evolving and co-creating different features, so it's as impactful as possible. And of course, business verticalization, not only with the features, but also the way the monitors are created, the way the AI elements are sprinkled around, they can easily relate to and be very familiar to their day-to-day work. It matches the processes that they have in their own businesses. And this is one single view how data observability can make an impact across compute, operations, and business value across three different pillars: data quality and trust, AI analytics and enablement, and of course, governance, risk, and compliance, in terms of proactively detecting the anomalies and overall utilization of the resources so that massive costs can be reduced, and also redundancy and the AI modeling can be the costs can be reduced by 30 to 40%. And once you're automating the compliance and governance for the pipelines, things can happen much faster and easier as well. And with a lot of incident management abilities the data observability brings in, the operations teams can have less of an alert fatigue and fix the issues with a calm and composed mind so that they don't repeat again. And AI projects can get accelerated with confident data being fed into the models, and also the governance, risk, and compliance aspect. The audits can be streamlined completely, and confident decision making adds more business value. And data observability strives at giving a competitive edge with the outcomes. And of course, once you have a very strong risk and compliance management in place, it not only builds trust with the stakeholders, but also your customers. All right, so let's dive into the demo of the data observability platform. So now if you see here, this is the 360-degree dashboard that I was talking about. Now, this is not just friendly for a business user, but also for someone like a data engineer or a business analyst who has to report the state of the data to the CDO and so on. Now, users like CDO or the data officers, they are concerned with not just the health percentage, but also looking at how this health percentage can boost data utilization in their companies. So that's where things are very neatly laid out. On the right-hand corner, you see the data health percentage, and moving left, you see how the coverage of the overall observability is across different systems. So, for instance, you have 642 assets here, out of which 83 are being observed. So that gives a sense of strategizing how much more observability has to be done, and overall number of issues related to data that are across different states of being open and closed. And as we come down, we see the time series across different data observability pillars, such as volume, freshness, and so on, and the scores towards the right widget that quantify how exactly these performing across a period of time. Now, as we go down, we see the pipeline anomalies as well. Now, the overall journey begins with dealing with the anomalies. Let's say the analytics team has reported some reports going off, and they make a call to the data platform team. And now I'm the data platform team's engineer, and I go about saying, okay, what could be happening here? So I click on the anomalies affected, and maybe the report related to, let's say, sales. Now that's where I click on the sales. I search for the sales tracker report, and then I see the specific set of anomalies there. Now this view gives me the data across different monitors that are set. Now I would look at the auto monitor. Now auto monitor is something that I spoke about a bit ago, where the model tries to learn the patterns of how the tables are getting populated and create certain ranges, and anomalies are called out when they breach. Now I see here I have the monitor of my interest. Now I can zoom through this view where the outer purple line is the range that the model has predicted within which the data has to operate, and the dark line you see is how the actual data is operating in terms of the volume, and the red dots are the ones where the upper range and the lower range have been breached. So now I dwell down into seeing what could be happening. So here are a slew of data quality rules that have breached, due to which the data volume could be affected. And that leads me to wonder which are the systems that could be leading to this issue. And that's where I get into the lineage view. And this is the inter-system lineage view that I spoke about a bit ago. And this is automatically stitched once the data sources are defined. And I can increase or decrease the number of data sources, the upstream and downstream, and then update it to see right from the source till the destination. And here is a script in terms of how the data needs to be transformed. So I get to review that to see if there's something going wrong there, and eventually look at every column across these data sources and investigate what could have gone wrong. Something could have changed, some column could have gotten deleted, or the business rules could have changed. And across all of these aspects, the incident management becomes that much more easier. So this is a very handy visualizer to see exactly how things are going on. And how easy is it to set things up? So we have a 3-step setup. We come here to choose a particular data source. The range of data sources that 6sense Data Observability supports keeps increasing across databases, ETL tools, lakes, BI solutions, and so on. So let me take MySQL for instance. All it takes is just keying in few configuration details. We also support Key Vault, and once that is done, we can also set up the monitors. This is across assets and columns as well, across different pillars. Now all I need to do is select a specific asset, and then go about defining the monitor that I could be interested in. Now let's say I'm expecting freshness, the freshness to be of the kind where the table, and if it's not updated within every minute, then I need to be alerted. And for me, this is super critical, because let's say it's a campaign that is running and I expect a certain amount of registrations to happen every minute. So if the registrations table is not getting populated with a certain amount or a certain time, I need to get alerted. So the report that we send out on a daily basis or hourly basis to the CXO is accurate. So across different pillars, the setup can be made, and notifications can be set up across Slack, across email. We also support webhooks, and if you have a custom solution where things have to be notified, that can be set up pretty easily as well. So that's how, in a matter of few minutes, you can set up 6sense Data Observability, and you're off to go with your observability and truly focus on what it matters. And this helps reduce 80 up to 80% of the chaos. Many companies and roles who deal with data on a day-to-day basis, and move from a reactive mode to a much proactive mode. To sum things up, this is where 6sense Data Observability stands, and this is what we believe in. We want to empower businesses towards well-informed business decisions by nurturing the data. So, data-driven decision doesn't have to be a mission impossible gig. You could be in a complete Zen mode, taking decisions very confidently, knowing that your data is exactly where it's supposed to be, and it's telling you the true stories that you need to look at and take the right decision for the business and steer them towards the destinies that have been set, and overall make the businesses successful and bring the best possible delight to your users. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for all the interactions and questions. We look forward to meeting with you all again and hearing from you. And feel free to post any questions, and we are happy to take them. Have a good one. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, GK. That was an insightful session, wasn't it? To close today's discussion, I want to zoom out and highlight something fundamental. Data and AI are now two critical pillars of any modern business strategy. But here's the reality. Without high quality, reliable data, even the most advanced AI systems fall apart. Your models won't predict accurately, dashboards won't align, and business decisions will be based on broken foundations. This is where data observability isn't just a technical layer, it's a strategic enabler for business. It ensures your data is trustworthy, timely, and transparent so that your AI, analytics, and operations can truly deliver impact. If you're building towards an AI-driven future, and most of us are, this is where the groundwork begins. We'd love to show you how Rakuten 6sense is helping organizations make this shift with real-time visibility and reliability built in from the day one. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation.